welcome. And Muzi, how's it going? Welcome to the Step Up Conference. And this is your first time in Africa, brother?
This is home. It's never going to be the first time for me, man.
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Before we continue, right? Can I steal like a minute of your time? What I'd like to do is I asked people, right? And I know we didn't yes on this one, but I'm just gonna ask of your help, okay?
Huh?
This person here has said to us that, so I want to give away two prizes, potentially to a male and a female. So the first one that I would like to give, I'm not saying that Evelyn we should give her, but do you think her story is convincing? So this is Evelyn, right? She's number one.
Student accommodation, so the training will help me with the adventure. That's actually very wise. Okay, I like that.
Okay.
Showing up clearly means I'm ready. Aim, fire kind of person. Yeah. Act now, figure out the rest later. Ah, that is brilliant. I like that guy.
Yeah.
Planting the seed.
You have to choose two. I'm gonna give you about 4 or 5, but you have to choose 2.
Mm-hmm. Okay, go for it. Ah, this is Belfast in South Africa.
Who else do we have? Okay. You bring in your relatives from the UK, man.
I've got a local. Love it.
All right. Okay, that's it now. We need to pick. Who are you going to pick?
I'm definitely going for the ready, aim, fire guy first.
For the fire guy, was that? Let's check here.
I think it was the second one. That's the one. Lumko, that message is brilliant. You have to show that message.
You got yourself a conference pass, and the support team will give you a call or reach out to you so that you can be in the back room and obviously bring out some good questions and thank the Muzi. He's the one who hooked you up with the ticket. Who else can we go to, man?
And then I've got to support my locals. The person who posted I have to support my locals.
All right.
So this one definitely has to go to Pearl.
Okay, good stuff. So Pearl will get that. Okay, so we are done there, and I am going to go into the back room. And Muzi, thanks again, for accepting our invitation to come up and share what you do out in the UK. I've been telling people that the reason why we are hanging out with such kind of people with you is that we already want to set some inroads into places where we also want to invest. And, we've been looking out into the UK. And for us, this relationship is not just about us having this conversation, but it's about actually planting the seeds to say, can you look out for something for us? The fund is ready with fundraising, but we want to be anywhere and everywhere. So take it away.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to need a bit of support from you, TJ, in terms of the technical stuff. Just need to make sure that my screen can be shared easily enough. So if you could confirm once you actually see what I'm doing.
Bring it up.
Okay.
Once it comes through on my side, I will just throw it there so that you can navigate on your side. Okay. Right, ladies and gentlemen, whilst Muzi is finding his feet, I actually didn't know that people from UK they would need a couple of minutes to find their feet in the presentation. But well, there we go. You got it, man.
Hey, everyone needs a bit of help once in a while. Hey. Okay. So can I just get confirmation, TJ, that you can see what I'm looking at here?
I can see what you're looking at, and you're good to go. You can run, man.
Fabulous. Right. So firstly, just want to start by saying thank you for the opportunity. It's fabulous to be in such an environment, and the fact that I was requested to come here, I took that as an absolute honor. So thank you first of all for the to the M5 property addicts. Absolutely brilliant. And thank you for the guys that are actually watching right now. Appreciate the support. So basically just going to talk about my story, what it is that I do out here with my team and what it is that we focus on. And hopefully the journey that I will discuss today is going to be helpful to someone. So there's a few people including TJ actually, who makes fun of my accent. So I hope you understand everything that I'm saying. And if not, we'll get a bit more clarity when we ask questions at the end. So let's start with Muzzy. Who is Muzzy? So I'm just going to talk a little bit about myself. Now, I'm loving the fact that the majority of people that are listening today are from where I come from, so they're not going to struggle to pronounce my full name. Usually when I'm speaking to people in the UK, I have to shorten my name. I have to actually pronounce it for them. And even when I shorten my name to Muzzy, I still get people calling me Mazi. I don't know how that even happens, but hey, my full name is Muzzy Ndlovu, and I was born in Zimbabwe. I came to the UK when I was 17, back in 2004. And those who are quick at doing maths, you know how old I am. I am a property acquisition director for a couple of companies. So we purchase properties, we manage properties. I am a property mentor. So I teach people to do what I do. I am a husband and I am a father. So you can see the picture on the right-hand side. I love this slide here. Usually when I present anything with the slide, sort of like a slideshow, a PowerPoint presentation, I will have this type of slide at the start to end why. And this is something that I would always encourage anyone who's doing anything, especially in business, or especially if you're tackling something new and you have a good idea of what it is that you're looking to do. Always remember why you're doing it. My why is this slide here. It's for my wife, it's for my daughters. So when you actually get to hit certain challenges at any point, no matter how difficult they become, if you remind yourself why you're doing it, it will give you the courage to keep pushing. So this here is my why. Okay, so if we just go straight in then and start discussing what property strategies are. So property strategies, to start off with, I'm going to assume I'm speaking to people who've never heard of any of these. I'm going to assume that I'm speaking to people who understand property from a different country. So some of the terminology I'm going to discuss here might not be the same as where you are. And again, when we get to the back room and ask questions, please ask for clarification for any terminology that I use that doesn't make sense. Okay, so I'm just going to go through some property strategies. This is when we say you're investing in property, there's so many different ways that you can invest in property. And these are the different strategies that are available. There's advantages and disadvantages to each of them, but I would recommend you pick one if it's something that you're looking to do. So firstly, a buy-to-let. A buy-to-let, which is shortened to BTL. This is the normal investment that anyone would expect or anyone would fully understand. You just buy a house and rent it out. Buy a house, put a tenant in and rent it out. That's the buy-to-let strategy. There's a little bit more detail to that, and we're going to go into it. Okay, and then you've got the rent to rent, my personal favorite strategy. Rent to rent is just as it says, you rent a property out to rent it on to someone else in a completely different way to make sure that you can generate cash flow from a property that you do not own. So it's usually called R2R. This is where my focus is. Now, for anyone who's followed the M5 Property Addict, you might have seen this face in the videos before where it says the 70-20-10 property investment strategy. And when I talk about those sort of like that strategy, is 70% of my strategy is on rent to rent, 20% is on a one called deal sourcing or deal packaging, and 10% is on joint venture finance raising. So rent to rent is my personal favorite, is the one that I run the most, and we're going to go into more detail on that one as well. Okay, houses in multiple occupancy, HMOs. So this is a strategy where you take on a property and start renting it out per room rather than renting out to the whole house. There's different sort of attributes and things that you need to focus on to be able to make this work, to make sure that this is profitable. And again, we're going to go into a little bit more detail in terms of how you find them, how you calculate it, make sure that you can make a profit, and how you decide what profit to make on them. Okay, The next one is serviced accommodation, another one of my favorites. Serviced accommodation, which is commonly known in different countries, i.e. in South Africa as Airbnb. Serviced accommodation is where you treat the property, the whole house, as if it's a hotel, and you're not renting it out on a long-term basis. You're actually renting it out on a nightly rate, just like you would in a hotel. So people can take it long-term, but you charge them on a nightly rate. You make the property or the house look spectacular. So you create a home away from home type of environment and rent it out as if it was a hotel. That's what service accommodation is. Again, we're going to go into detail a little bit more. Now, the next couple of strategies we're going to talk about, I'm going to show here. I just want you to know about them, but we're not going to go into detail with them. And if you want to know a bit more detail about them, TJ did mention, get your notepad and pen, write down what it is that you want to ask. And when we get to the end, ask a bit more detail about it. Okay, so the next one is lease option agreement. They're also known as purchase lease options. This is where you can actually agree a price or agree a purchase price sometime in the future, and you take control of the property in the meantime and pay a certain amount of money on a monthly basis in control of the house as if it's actually yours, and it gives you the full rights to purchase the property at the end, which means you don't have to buy it now. You don't have to all the funds right now, just like you would do with the buy to let. You just hold the property, and for these types of deals, you can actually pay just £1 to sign the contract. And you may have heard some people say, I bought a house with £1. It's not necessarily actually buying the house in £1. You need a certain amount of money for the contract to be exchanged, for it to be legally binding. You need an exchange of finance, and it can be as low as £1. So you could pay £1 just to swap the contracts, get that signed, and you agree a purchase price in the future. It can be up to 10 years, it could be 20 years. So that property can actually buy itself if you do the deal right. These are not easy to find, but they're very possible. Okay, deal packaging or deal sourcing. I did mention on the 70-20-10, my 20% is deal packaging. So deal packaging or deal sourcing is when you actually go and find deals for other people. So there are people out there that want to invest in property, but they do not have the time. They have the money, not the time. And you can be the one who offers your time if you don't have the money. So you take your time to go find these property deals, whether they're looking to buy them or they're looking to just manage the properties on a rent-to-rent maybe. So you find the properties, you communicate with all the people that need communicating, you go and do the viewings, you arrange and negotiate everything. You package that deal and then come to an investor who's got the funds, not the time, and say, I know you're looking for a 2-bedroomed house in Coventry at this amount of money. I've just got one for you. Here you go. You just pay me X amount for the work that I've done, and you can have that deal. So deal packaging is one way of investing in property without actually investing too much money into it. You need compliance to be able to be a deal packager, and that can cost at the start, and it's an ongoing cost every year that you have to renew, but you have to be compliant. That's the investment. And then obviously you have to get trained. Dependent on how you get yourself trained, you can go to an education company and pay for that and get mentorship, or you can learn by aligning yourself with someone who's been doing it for a long time, offer your services to them for free, and they can teach you as you go along. But either way, you need to get educated and you need to be compliant to do that. And that's another version of investing in property that anyone can get themselves involved in. And then you've got the last one, commercial conversion. This is what we call the big time. So this is where you convert a commercial building into a residential building, or the other way around. Mostly people take on some massive commercial buildings that are no longer used now. With the introduction of the internet and online shopping, there's a lot of street shops. There's a lot of offices that are no longer being used because it's a little bit redundant. People are doing things online now. So you can get an office building, you can get a massive commercial building and convert it to residential, especially in the UK. UK has got a massive population and it's a very small island, and there's always going to be demand for somewhere to live. So when you find a commercial property that you can sort of convert into a residential, that's something that's even supported by the government. So there's actually grants that are offered by the government to help that initiative. And this is a property strategy that yields a lot more than many other strategies. However, it's got its own challenges. You need to know what you're doing, and it requires a lot of money upfront. So this is not a full list of all the strategies. There's loads of different ones that people get themselves involved in. These are the common ones. And again, for any further information, we can do the questions right at the end. Now, we're just going to go into these that we said we're going to speak about, the top 4. To start off with the buy-to-let, okay? I've already mentioned that a buy-to-let itself is where you actually just purchase a property and then rent it out. That's the common buy-to-let, and some people call it a single let, where you just have either one person who's going to rent it for a long time or one family who's going to rent it for a long time. So this is one of the properties or one of the houses in the UK. Houses like this are very expensive, by the way. So what do you actually need? What is required for a buy-to-let? Now, some of this information may be really obvious to some people, so apologies if I'm just going to ask you to suck eggs. However, it's important to understand for anyone who's never actually heard of the concept of buy-to-let or investing in a property. So you do need funds for a deposit. Okay, you're most likely going to buy this house and use a mortgage. Okay, this is where the lender could be a bank, it could be any other entity that is registered to be a lender, where they give you X amount of money compared to the value of the property. It's most likely going to be 75% loan to value. So you might see something that says 75% LTV. That's loan to value. If the house is £100,000, the value, or as that's the value, the lender will give you 75,000, which means you have to raise 25,000. So for a buy-to-let, not a residential property, not one that you're buying to live in, the one you're buying to rent out, is a completely different aspect. So you have to raise a deposit. It's most likely going to be 25% off that value. That's what you need to raise to start with. You're going to require funds for stamp duty, land and tax, which is mostly about 3% of the value of the property. So for that £100,000 house, you're going to need £3,000 for the stamp duty. You also need funds for the solicitor and broker. Okay, so that's usually 1% of that. So the mortgage broker that you're going to work with, the solicitor who's going to do the paperwork and do the runs, all of that is required to make the purchase legal. Okay, those are the funds that you're going to require. Now, before I move on to what else is required, usually at this point, that's where most people say, I can't invest in property because I need all of those funds. It's funds for that, funds for this, funds for that. I'm not going to get involved in property because I don't have any money. A few times this message has been relayed even in South Africa by the M5 property addicts, which I love, is money is required for a property deal, but it doesn't have to be your money. Okay, so this is where people start talking about a no money down deal. It doesn't mean that the property is being given to you for free. It means there's money that has transferred, but the money doesn't have to be yours. It's important to understand how to get that done, get yourself involved. If it's something that you really want to do, there's a way to get it done. Okay, so what else is required for a standard buy-to-let? You need the knowledge. Okay, so if you don't have the funds, what else can you actually offer to make a deal happen? There's a lot of people involved in one buy-to-let, in one purchase. There's a person who's selling, there's a person who's doing the mortgage element, there's a person who's doing the solicitor element, there's a person who's doing the viewings, there's a person who's coordinating the landlord or the vendor, as well as the seller, as well as the buyer. So which part can you actually play in? What do you have right now that you can offer in that deal? So this is the important part. If you're thinking, I want to get involved in property, however, I don't have money. So look at what else you can offer to make things happen. Make yourself valuable in another way, rather than say, because I don't have money, I can't do anything. Okay? Time. Time is an absolute massive valuable thing right now. There's quite a lot of people, and this may sound absolutely crazy to some people. When you say, I haven't started in property, or I've started in property, but I'm struggling because I don't have money, there's a lot of people that I have met, and some are actually listening, whose problem is, I've got loads of money, just no time. Now imagine what kind of magic you two can actually put together. The one person with loads of money, no time, and the person with no money, but loads of time. Put those together. Now understand that the way that, if you're the one who's looking for money, the way you value money is almost the same way as a person with money valuing time. So if you can offer your time and they offer their money, you two can actually link. But then understand that there's a lot of other different ways that you can make yourself valuable with no money, and this is one of them. Offer your time. Go work with someone who's doing property. Offer your time for free, and in return you're actually learning how the process works. Get yourself involved. There's loads of ways to get yourself involved. Ask yourself the question, if money was not a problem, what would stop me? And whatever the answer to that question is, that's what you need to work on. Don't worry about the money will find you. Okay? People. So there's going to be a network of people. You're going to need a lot of people. Understand which people you're going to need, which ones are going to be able to help you to get the right things. Are they the people that are going to show you how to find the deals? Are they the people that are going to show you how to work out which deal is actually worth it, a good deal versus a bad deal? You can find people that have the money, like we said, that have loads of the money, but not enough of the time. Create networks or infiltrate networks, create relationships with people that are in the industry, and find out what you can offer and how you can support others. And the more value you add to others, naturally, they will start adding value to you. Okay, so do not pedestalize money. Just because you don't have money doesn't mean things are not going to work out, right? And lastly, the skills, soft skills and hard skills. The hard skills element of being able to understand how a deal works, understanding whether this deal is profitable or not. If the vendor or if the seller of the house says, this is how much I'm looking for you to buy this house, you need to be able to understand whether that's going to be a good deal or not. Okay, now, a lot of people start working out their negotiation skills, which is the soft skills, negotiating, communicating. They start working out the negotiation skills and think, you know what, just because the vendor is asking for this much, I have to negotiate it down. I have to negotiate it down. I can't be taking a property at market value. I can't be taking a property at asking price. Some of the deals that these people, or some of the houses that these people are selling, based on what they're asking for, it can be a fantastic deal just at that point. It can be that good a deal. You can actually offer more than what they're asking for. It's important to understand how to calculate your deals, how to look at something and think, okay, this is a good deal. This is not a good deal. Okay, if it's a good deal at asking price, don't negotiate. Take the deal as it is. It's a great deal as it is. And I've seen people lose deals because they start actually pushing on negotiations just because you want you want to sort of like feel good about the fact that you've taken or you've bought a property at lower than what the vendor is asking for. If the deal is really good at the asking price, take it. Okay, so these are the skills that you need to understand, and all of that, the knowledge, the time, the people, the network, the skills, the soft and hard, they have nothing to do with money. If you're struggling with money and you don't have some of that, that's what you need to work on. And once you've worked on it, offer that as value to other people, and the funds will find you. Okay, hope that makes sense. Okay, so case study. In terms of buy-to-let, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story here. There's a chap called Tom. So when I say chap, a guy, there's a guy here. Chap is a term that we use out here. There's a guy called Tom who wanted to sell his house. Okay, Tom didn't know where to actually advertise his house. He didn't know who to speak to be able to advertise his house. And then Muzzy here started sending out letters and sending out leaflets directly to different houses. I just sent leaflets to every house in certain streets. And then this leaflet landed in Tom's house. Tom read the leaflet and thought, this person says they want to buy his house. Perfect, because he's looking to sell it and he just didn't know who to sell it to. He kept hold of this leaflet for a while. And when I say a while, I'm talking about 6 months. Okay, I sent leaflets into those areas. And then 6 months later, I get a phone call from someone who says, you dropped a leaflet in my house. And I was like, oh, okay, brilliant. So I drop leaflets in certain sections in different months as we go along. And 6 months later, someone says, you dropped a leaflet. I thought it was in a different area. But then when he gave me the address, I thought, I haven't dropped a leaflet in 6 months in that area. But he kept hold of it. So this actually is a reminder on anyone who's looking to do leaflets. It's about timing as well. So don't think that because you've put the leaflets and nothing is happening, it's never going to happen. It's timing. Just keep going. So Tom then invited me, and this area is a bit of a rough area. He invited me to come and look at his property and look at what I can actually offer. So when I went there, because it's a rough area, when I knocked on the door, I'm assuming Tom had forgotten that he invited me. When he opened the door, he was holding a baseball bat. Okay. And as you can imagine, this was an interesting time for me where I was thinking, what on earth is going on here? Tom is holding a baseball bat and says, who are you? And I was like, oh. So I looked at the door number to make sure I'm at the right property. And I confirmed I'm definitely the right property. And I said, I'm looking for Tom. And says, yeah, that's me. Who are you? And then I explained to him what the case was. And then he said, oh, sorry. He puts the baseball bat down. And then I walk in and I viewed the property. Fast forward, we actually bought his house 2 months later. This here is Tom. I asked for him to take a picture with me holding his baseball bat. This is a story I'm not going to forget because I told him as well about it a few times after. And he just said that he had forgotten that he invited someone a couple of days before. This is Tom. This is a house that we actually bought from him. This house was actually one of those that are generated from leaflets. So leaflets just being delivered everywhere in the houses. You never know. People may be thinking about selling their houses, but not sure how to do that. So if you're looking to find leads, definitely leaflets is one of the good ones. Okay, so to those that love numbers, we're just going to go through it. So the property type, this property is a 2-bedroom. It's a terrace house. I'm not sure if there's terraces in South Africa. So a terrace is a house that is connected to the next one. So if you look at the picture there, I bought number 34 and the one right next to it is number 36 and they're actually connected by the wall. So you'll find that number 32 as well is connected by the wall and they're called terraces because they're just all connected. Okay. Hope that makes sense. Okay. Market value. This is how much it was actually valued at the time. Based on our due diligence, it was valued at £120,000. Now, I know this number might sound low based on the numbers that you guys usually see in South Africa, but £120,000 for a 2-bed in this area, this is in Coventry in the West Midlands in the UK, is actually quite normal. Okay, that's what it was valued at. Now, after conversations with Tom on what exactly he was looking for and building relationships with the vendor. Remember, it's important to understand the full story. Don't think just because someone is looking to sell a house at a certain price, that's the full story. The value of the house and the asking price are just the face value. Get to talk to the people that are selling the house, get to know the full story, and you might be able to help them in a more different way than just offering what they're asking for. So after discussions, we actually purchased this property at 94,495. Okay, that is significantly below market value. Okay, and this is because I fully understood what Tom was looking to do. Tom had had enough living in this area. Tom wanted to move into a bungalow, a house that doesn't have stairs, because he was tired of going up and down the stairs. And Tom had the money that he needed to be able to purchase the next house. He only needed £60,000 to be able to top that up. That's all he needed. He didn't want anything else. Okay. So after discussions, I made an offer of this before I found out that he actually was looking for 60. I made this offer. It ticked all of his boxes. He really liked me, and we actually did a deal. So I actually purchased it at 94,495. Okay. And what we wanted to do, because this house only had one shower, it's 2 bedrooms, 1 shower, but it had 2 reception rooms. Okay. So we did an extension at the back where we created a bathroom and a shower at the back to increase the value. We did some refurbishments up inside the house to uplift it, repainted, put new carpets, put new floorings. And the second reception, we turned it into a bedroom. Okay, now it wasn't officially a bedroom where we can say it's now a 3-bed. It just means we can rent it out as a 3-bed, but it's still officially a 2-bedroom house. So that's how much it cost us, £24,000. Investors, so this 94,495, we actually bought it cash. Okay, so we did not go to the lender or did not go to apply for a mortgage and raise a deposit like I was talking about before. This is outright cash, where we just bought at the at that price, cash. Now, where did I find 94,495? Because I didn't have it. I didn't have 95 grand in my account. So I spoke to my network. In a slide before, I spoke about having the people, having a network. So I spoke to my network, and I knew people who have the money, not the time. People who have the money and they want to invest in property, but they don't want to get involved in the process. They just want their money to work harder. Okay, so I managed to find someone who who put the money in and asked for 1% a month interest. Okay, because this project actually ran for about 6 months. In total, it was 5,669 that I had to pay them back, because each month it was about 944. Okay, now this 1% a month doesn't mean I had to pay it every month. It's just an accumulation, and at the end I had to pay all back on top. Okay, hope that makes sense. So total outlay, which is the total amount of money that was paid, the purchase price, the refurb cost, the 1% a month, and that actually includes all of the legal fees, was about 125. Okay, so at this point then, the end value, after all the work was actually done, the end value, it was revalued at £140,000. Okay, so with the uplift that we did inside the house, with the work that we did at the back of the house with the extension, it was revalued at £140,000. Now, what happens at this point is what's called a refinancing process. I spoke about buying the house where you raise a 25% deposit and then the lender gives you 75. But you can do what's called a refinancing process where you already have the property, it's yours. The lender gives you 75%, but you don't have to raise the 25 because you already have the property. So what's left, the 25% is actually left in the property. It's yours, okay? So 75% of that 140 at the refinance was 105,000, which came back, okay? So with all the money that was paid out, which is 124,164, and the 105 that came back, it meant we had about £19,500 left in the deal. Okay, so I actually paid the 24,000 of the refurb myself, and then I borrowed the 95,000 pounds in purchasing the property. And when the refinance came back, I managed to pay off the investor completely, okay, and had a bit of money back from the 24 that I paid, which means I had £19,500 left, and now the property is actually mine, okay? So that's the difference. You use the investor to just purchase the property, do the refinance, pay them back at their interest, they're out of the deal, now you have the property. So it's almost as if I actually bought the whole house for £20,000. Now, I hope that makes sense. This property right now is being used for serviced accommodation, and it's yielding, or it's actually returning about £850 or £800 a month on average, which is about 50% return in investment. that means all that money that was left in will probably come back within 2 years. Okay. Now, for those that have further questions about these numbers, please note them down, write these down. And then when we get to the question and answer section, you can actually ask directly in terms of what you're looking to know. Okay. Now, I hope that makes sense. Right. What are the advantages of a buy-to-let? Okay. A steady cash flow. Okay, so there's a few people who say, oh, buy-to-lets or single-lets don't actually give you that much cash flow because, you know, what you're going to pay every month for the mortgage is not really that far different to what they will rent it at. So the cash flow is only minimal. Yeah, fair enough. Compared to other strategies, yes, the cash flow is not great, but it's a steady cash flow. A steady cash flow that's going to be maintained for a long period of time. Okay. And then less management hassles. So a single let, you're just going to get one tenant or one family who's just going to move into the property for a long period of time. And you're not going to have as many hassles. Some people will just get a letting agent to take over, so they don't have to get involved in that. Less management hassles for those people who just look to put money in, buy the house, and not have to worry about it. Just watch the money come back in. So this is one of the strategies that will be good for you. Capital appreciation. Okay, so this is another hidden advantage of a purchase or a buy-to-let, where the value of the property is going up and the debt is going down. Okay, so this is information that was picked up from the Global Property Guide, that in the past 10 years in the UK, the properties have increased by 41%. On average, 41% increase in property. So based on this information, the property that we actually bought at 94,000 in 2011, it would have been at 67,000. I just changed that to rands because back in 2011, it was £1 is to 10 rands. So it would have been 670,180 rands. Okay, if we were to buy this house 10 years ago. Okay, now 10 years later, we're buying it for 94,495 at the 41% increase as discussed, and that would be 944,000 rands, 950. Now I can tell the smart people are looking at it thinking, no, actually, those numbers are not correct, because there's another change that's involved when it comes to changing currency. Okay, if you were to buy a property in the UK 10 years ago and you've actually spent 670,000, you've got two entities that are increasing in value. One is the house that you bought itself, and the second one is the currency change itself, because you actually have this property in pounds. Okay, what's actually changed in the past 10 years, as well as the increase in property, is the rates. Okay, so 10 years ago, it was £1 is to 10 rands. Now it's £1 is to 19 rands. With some forex traders, you can get it at 22, but right now it's 19. So right now, if you had bought it at that point, it's not 944. It's a crazy 1,861,551 just by moving in terms of currency. Okay, this is another major but hidden benefit of being a foreign investor who's actually purchasing properties in the UK from the outside. That's something worth considering. Okay, so moving to a different strategy, my absolute favorite. So I know there's going to be a few people who are going to be thinking now, what on earth is rent to rent? I've never heard of it before. And if you have heard of it before, are you utilizing it to the best of your ability? Are you actually utilizing the knowledge that you know and the hidden gems of what rent to rent can actually do for you? Okay. So what is rent to rent? So rent to rent is a cash flow building strategy. Okay. It's a cash flow building strategy. It's a strategy where you use someone else's assets to generate cash flow without having to buy it. Okay. It's a bit of a contrast to the one that we've discussed before. I love this quote by Nelson Rockefeller. The secret to success is to own nothing but control everything. This concept is being used absolutely everywhere. Airbnb being one of them. Okay. Airbnb is one of the greatest accommodation platforms, but they don't actually own any houses. Uber, one of the greatest delivery and transportation platforms, but they don't actually own any cars. They just control the platform. And it's the same concept with rent to rent, where you actually take on someone else's property, manage it, and actually generate cash flow from that property without having to buy it. Now, if buying the houses is something that you aspire to do, you can then use the cash flow that's being used from other people's properties to then buy the properties. Okay, it's also really good to actually use as an experience to know exactly what to do with them. Most people would actually save money for a long period to buy that one house, and then they will learn how to manage a property after buying it. Whereas you can do rent to rent, where there's little investment. You learn how to manage these properties as you go along, where you've got little investment. By the time you buy the house using those funds, you're already experienced manager of a property. You know what to expect. You know exactly what you're doing. Okay, so I'm going to do an illustration of a purchase versus a rent to rent. That is a buy to let versus a rent to rent. Okay, so let's imagine in this area, the rent is £1,000 in this area for this house. Let's imagine you're going to be running a serviced accommodation. So when I say SA, I'm not talking about South Africa, guys. This is serviced accommodation, Airbnb income is £2,500. Okay, and the bills are £500 in this area for this particular property. Let's assume that. Okay. Now, if you were to purchase this house, let's say this very nice house cost 100,000. I'm going to say 100 just to keep the numbers nice and simple. 100,000, you're going to need to raise a deposit of 25,000. You're going to need to pay 3%, as I mentioned before, of the stamp duty, land and tax. Okay, you're going to need to raise the legal costs, which is the solicitors, mortgage brokers, about £1,000. Okay, so the total outlay, which is the total amount of money you need to raise to purchase that one house that costs 100,000, is 29,000. Okay, now let's assume after buying this house, you are managing this house yourself to run it as a serviced accommodation unit. Okay, that way there's no management costs. You're doing it yourself. After paying a mortgage of 500, your cash flow is going to be 1,500. Okay, because the income is 2,500. Okay, you've got the bills of 500, and then you've got the mortgage of 500. So you're paying out 1,000, and then you're getting 2,500 in, which means your cash flow is 1,500. I hope that makes sense. Okay, I can't see the comments at the moment. I would ask you to just say yes, it makes sense. I can't see them. Okay, now let's compare it to a rent to rent. Okay, a rent to rent, where you're looking at setup costs, first month's rent, deposit, you're looking at about £4,000 just to set it up. Okay, and let's say you don't actually negotiate the rent, you actually take it at the market rent, which is £1,000. You're going to set up a property for 4,000. You're going to be paying £1,000 rent. Okay, and then you're going to have £500 bills. Your SA income, assuming again you're managing this yourself, your income is 2,500, your bills are 500, and your rent is 1,000. So your cash flow is £1,000. Okay, now looking at this picture, you may be thinking, well, the purchase is cash flowing more than the rent to rent. Absolutely, if you're going to be looking at them at 1-to-1. Now, the big picture is with £29,000, you're going to be making 1,500 a month. If you were to use that £29,000 to purchase as many rent-to-rents as you could, which is a maximum of 7, based on the £4,000 we mentioned, you're going to be making £7,000 a month on rent-to-rent. Okay, so you've got the concept of, I have £29,000. Do I buy one house and make 1,500, or do I get 7 rent-to-rent units and make 7,000? And then use the cash flow from these rent-to-rent units to then buy the house that I'm looking to buy. Okay, so the concept is, don't raise the funds from your own pocket, use assets to buy them. Okay, hope that makes sense as well. So what can you do with the rent-to-rent deal? Okay, the same thing that you can do with the purchase. The purchase that we spoke about, you can either buy the house and do it as a single let, as we mentioned, or you can buy the house and do these strategies. So one of them is HMO, which is the houses in multiple occupancy. We touched on that at the start. So this is where you have a 5-bedroom house, and instead of putting one family to use the whole 5-bedroom and they pay a market rent of X amount, you split it all and actually rent them one room for each tenant. This is something that is used quite a lot for students, and it's also used for professionals. And I think this is actually worldwide. Okay, I'm just going to speak about the UK. Now, the things that you need to look out for in the UK in terms of HMOs is it's a regulated strategy. In certain areas, in certain counties, in certain boroughs, in certain councils, you have to adhere to a certain rule. But then you have a rule that is actually, that kind of covers the whole country, that you need to make sure that it adheres with the fire regulations. And you also need to look out for what's called Article 4. And Article 4 is a rule that determines the amount of HMOs that go into an area. If there's too many HMOs in a certain area, the council, with the support of the government, will activate Article 4, which limits how many HMOs are in the area. And if there is HMOs, too many HMOs in the area, you need to apply for a license to be able to get it. And you most likely won't get it if Article 4 is on there, because it's a sign that there's too many of them. You can make the application, you can stay in the waiting list. If one or two of them drop out, yours can actually be approved then at that point. You need to make sure, if you're one of the people in the UK now and you're thinking of getting into HMOs, please understand the requirements of your area, your own borough. And if they say there is Article 4, it doesn't usually cover the whole area. It does actually in some areas, but it doesn't always cover the whole area. It can actually be certain streets. So don't think that because someone said there's Article 4 here, don't assume it's everywhere. Find out where it's actually affected and then make decisions based on that. Okay, so for an HMO, it's also important to understand how to make sure that it does make a profit for you. Don't assume that because you've got a rent to rent for a HMO, it's definitely going to make a profit, because what you're getting paid is higher than what you would have paid if it was normal rent. It's important to understand what exactly is coming in and what is going out. We go by what's called the 1.5 rule. If you're going to be asking questions about HMOs, guys, this is one thing to write down now. The 1.5 rule for HMOs, okay? The 1.5 rule determines that each room that you have, the profits that you're looking to make is 1.5 times the room rate. So if you've got a 5-bedroom house and in that area, a room goes for £500 a month, you're looking to make a profit of 750. That's 1.5 times the room rate. Now, why do we say that? We say that because your house is not always going to be 100% occupied, okay? You're going to lose one or two tenants once in a while. But if you lose one tenant, you don't want to be losing money. If you're making a profit of £750 in an area where a room is going for 500, if you lose one tenant, you're still getting paid £250, and that gives you enough time to find the next tenant. The last thing you want is the profit that you're making is less than the room rate, which means if you lose one tenant, you are paying into this deal. You're putting yourself at too much risk. So the 1.5 rule, which is something that will work outside the M25. Okay, this is for the people in the UK, by the way, outside the M25. In London, it's difficult. It's difficult to do, so we change it to the 1.25 rule. Now, I know for people in South Africa, Zimbabwe, you think London is actually the whole of the UK. It's different. London is something else. So within London, in the M25, we go by the 1.25 rule. Outside London, everywhere else, like in my area in the West Midlands, you go by the 1.5 rule. Again, guys, notes, write it down, ask more questions at the end. Okay, serviced accommodation, SA. So when I say SA, it's not South Africa, it's serviced accommodation, right? So this is the concept of dressing up a property to look very nice and actually rent it out on a nightly basis. The picture that you're looking at right now is actually one of our units in Coventry. This is a 1-bedroom house, and the sofa that you're looking at is actually a sofa bed. Okay, that can turn into a bed later on in the night, and that increases the amount of people that we can invite into the property. Okay, so This is where you dress up a property to look very nice and you rent it out on a nightly basis. Okay, so service accommodation, it's not regulated in the UK. The only regulation that we have so far, again, is in London, because there's that many of them, and you've got the 90-day rule, which is something that they implemented in there to make sure anyone who's doing service accommodation can only do it for 90 days in the year. People who in London find their way around it, but that's the only regulation that's available. Otherwise, everywhere else, it's unregulated. As long as the house itself meets the standards of a standard residential property, there's no regulation. So the way we calculate it is understand what the nightly rate is going to be in that area by looking at other properties, or using a website called AirDNA. AirDNA looks at all the calculations or all the statistics from Airbnb and VRBO, those two. It doesn't look at Booking.com, TripAdvisor, Expedia, or any of them, but then it gives you a good guideline. If you pay for it, it gives you more information, but you can look at the free version that gives you just a guideline of what the nightly rate is going to be, have a good understanding of what the cleaning costs are going to be, and then bring that revenue and leave it at 75% occupancy. 75% of the month is about 22, 23 days. Look at that revenue. Does it actually cover the rent? Does it cover the cleaning cost? Does it cover all your bills? If it does and actually gives you a profit, you're probably looking at a good deal, okay? It's just a quick way of looking at whether you're looking at a good deal or not, right? So that's serviced accommodation. Now, at this point, people are thinking, now, where can I find these deals that you're talking about? Whether you're looking to purchase them, whether you're looking to take them on as a rent-to-rent, whatever it is that you're looking to do, where can I find them? Okay. Online platforms. I have no idea in South Africa what online platforms you use, but I know there are online platforms where you can go onto a website and it gives you a list of properties that are being sold, and you can actually pick those properties based on area, based on prices, based on whatever it is, the criteria that you're looking for. In the UK, we use Rightmove, Zoopla, Spare Room, Gumtree. Some of these platforms like Gumtree are actually ones where you're most likely going to find the people who selling the houses themselves, the actual vendors doing it themselves. So you might be able to find it direct to vendor on Gumtree, okay? The other ones, you're most likely going to find agents, okay? Property agents, letting agents, estate agents, deal sources, all of them, we're classing them as agents, people that have access to portfolios, access to different landlords or sellers. You can work with those guys. I've always said that if you're looking to buy just one house, if you're looking to buy just one house for the rest of your life, then don't go to an agent, because you're not going to get the greatest deal. You're going to need to pay them for their services. Find the deal yourself, okay? However, if you're looking to build a portfolio and you're going to take on loads of rent-to-rent deals, or you're not going to buy loads of properties, then create good relationships with these agents, because you only need one agent to create a good, nice portfolio. Okay, so you can work with letting agents for your rent-to-rent deals. You can work with estate agents for your purchases. Deal sources can actually do both, but then deal sources are going to be a little bit more expensive because they're going to package these deals for you. Okay, direct to vendor. I spoke about Tom's Property and how Tom's Property was through leaflets and letters. So leaflets just being sent in the areas that you're looking to buy these houses. Don't hesitate to send a leaflet. And I cannot express how powerful a leaflet can be. I know most people may be thinking, yeah, whenever a leaflet comes through my door, I just pick it up and take it straight to the bin. The only reason you do that is because the information that's on that leaflet does not resonate with you at that point. I can think of loads of leaflets that come through and they've got pictures of pizza, pictures of burgers. At that point, that's not what I'm looking for, so I'm going to throw it in the bin. But imagine if you see a leaflet of someone who's looking to buy your house just as you were thinking about selling your house, what's going to happen then? Okay, so do not hesitate to send leaflets, and do not hesitate to send leaflets again in that same area, because as I've mentioned, it's all about timing as well. You might send a leaflet to the right house at the wrong time. Someone may look at a leaflet about selling a house, and at that time, it's not a problem. And then 2 months later, they lose their job and they don't know what to do with the bills that they need to. And the only option is to sell their house. And then at that time, your leaflet lands, bang, you just given them a solution. Okay, so do not hesitate to keep sending leaflets. So you can split your area into quadrants where you send this area in 1 month, that one the next month, that one in the next month, that one the next month, and then repeat the whole process again. Social media presence, okay? This kind of freaks some people out a little bit. Majority of people don't actually like being on social media, being the face of talking about anything, even if you are the expert. I cannot express enough how many opportunities come when you tell people what you're looking for. Okay, many people tell me that I'm looking to buy houses, I'm looking for deals, I'm looking for investors is another one. I'm looking for an investor to fund my deals. And then I just think, okay, where have you found them? Where have you looked for them? Okay, and then they they just hope that the investors are just going to show up and just come directly to you. If you don't tell people what you're looking for, there is no way they can help you. They just don't know it. And one of the best ways is to just go on social media and talk about what you do. Okay. I'm not saying go on social media and say, guys, I'm looking for money. I'm looking for money. I'm looking for money. Asking for money will push people away. Even the people you love, if you ask them for money, you will push them away. You will annoy them. You do not ask directly for money. You tell them what it is that you're doing and get them to be interested and be invested in what you're looking to do. You go to a house viewing, talk about the viewing. You go to see an agent, talk about the agent. You go to any training course, talk about the training course. This is what I've learned at this training course. I couldn't believe that this was possible for someone like me. I'm going to go and try it. I've just been to this viewing. It's a 2-bedroom house, nice location. I think it would work for this strategy. I've just been to this networking event. I met 3 people that are really interested in the strategy that I'm looking to do. And you're just talking about what you're doing. And you'll be surprised how many people will be looking at you as someone who's very active in this business. And this is exactly what I did. I started getting messages from people who said, you're being active in the property industry. What is it? What exactly are you looking to do? What are you looking for? Okay. So when you get those types of questions, that's when you actually release the information of, look, this is the strategy I'm looking to do. I'm doing rent to rent. Right now, I've got a few properties that I'm doing 1, 2, 3, and 4 for. At the moment, I'm looking for more investors to put money into the deals that we're looking to do. And then I'm giving returns to these investors. And that's at that point, people will actually say to me, do you know what? I've got X amount of money that I'm looking to invest in. Do you think this is something that would work for you? And that's where the funds come from. Okay, don't hold back on social media. Social media, yes, it can expose you to people who will troll you. It can expose you to people who will criticize you. Absolutely. But at the same time, it will give you opportunities that you're looking for. Tell everyone what you're doing. If property is something that you're looking to do at some point and you're in a different profession, see yourself as an investor first who just happens to be in a job. Investor first, who just happens to be manufacturing engineer. Investor first, who just happens to be working in a bank. Okay, so introduce yourself as a property investor, and then people will ask you, oh, so what exactly do you do? And then you just talk about it. Okay, networking, same concept. Get yourself mingled in with as many people as possible who are doing what you're looking to do. Networking before was a little bit easier when we were doing the face-to-face. Okay, it was easy to create relationships because you're looking at the person, you having that human connection. But now networking is digital. Yeah, we've been forced into the digital world at the moment. The last year has been a bit crazy. However, as well as that happening, it's opened up loads of opportunities. Okay, so if you are looking to network right now, all of you are in a networking event. You can see other people who've logged in. You can connect with some of these people. You've reached out to as many of those people and find out where they are, what they're doing, how you can connect, and you'll be surprised how many ventures you can create from people that you connect to online. Okay, right. Now, what could go wrong? This is the fun part about property. This is the part where most people think, you know what? I've heard horror stories about property. I'm not getting involved. I do want a bit of income. I wish I could invest in property, but I've heard some horror stories. I'm not getting involved. Let's address them. Okay. No or not enough guests booking your property. Too much upfront cost, or some people saying I have no money to get involved in property. Landlords pulling out of the agreement. Okay. So this is mostly for rent to rent. no profits even at high occupancy. And I've seen quite a few people get excited about a deal. They get a deal, they start running it 3, 4, 5 months later, they realize they're not making money. Okay. And they say, I've got high occupancy, Muzi, but I'm still not making money. Okay. Bad guest booking property, which is what freaks a lot of people out in terms of service accommodation. Okay. So let's address each of them and see what it is that can be done about it. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. There's a lot more things that could go wrong in a property, okay, in this industry. So the first one, no or not enough guests booking the property. Your due diligence and marketing. So that's two different parts. The due diligence can be done and should be done before you even make an offer to get a property. Understand the market, understand the area, understand how much you can make from a property before you even make the offer. Okay, that's the before. And then the after, just because you've done good due diligence and you know this property can work, doesn't mean it's just going to work. You have to do the marketing. People need to know that the property that you have is available. Okay, if you just have an amazing deal sat there and no one knows about it, it's not going to perform. You have to do a vigorous amount of marketing. So if I'm going to talk about serviced accommodation or the Airbnb, before COVID, if you were to put a property on Airbnb and or booking.com, you'd probably be okay. It will probably perform on its own. That's fine. However, after this, it's changed. If you've got a serviced accommodation unit in the UK, do not depend on just Airbnb, booking.com. Have them as a side thing. You have to do extra marketing. You have to go find out who's in the area. You have to contact development companies. You have to reach out to as many contractors that are in the area. Drop leaflets on their cars. Take numbers from the vans that are parking at the hotels. Go to local McDonald's and just watch what vans are getting into that area, onto the drive-through. Take pictures of them and then call those companies and offer accommodation for those properties. All of that extra marketing work has to happen on the bigger part, and then Airbnb and booking.com be the smaller part. Okay, so you have to do a lot of marketing to make sure that you have these guests coming through. Too much upfront cost. I do not have any money. Okay, negotiate rent and deposit-free periods and use credit. Now, what am I talking about here? This, again, is mostly to do with rent-to-rent, okay? You can negotiate a rent-free period. It could be 1 month, it could be 2 months. Now, why on earth would the landlord give you a property and allow you to have a rent-free period for a month? Now, you don't actually ask for it as a rent-free period, because if you do it that way, they're going to think you're crazy, yeah? If you were to find a property that's available for a rent-to-rent and the landlord has agreed with what you're looking to do, fantastic. And then you look at the property and you know that there's a lot of work that's required, whether it's the furniture that needs changing, it's the outlook of the property that needs changing. You can say to the landlord, this is the standard that we have. Show them properties that you already have, or work with someone who, if this is your first property, work with someone else who has properties and say, these are the standards that we make our properties at. We are going to increase the value of your property, just making it look this way so it's attractive to the clientele that we work with. Would you be okay with us improving the value of your house for the next 3 or 4 weeks? And then we can start the contract at the end. You're no longer asking for a rent-free period. You're asking to increase their value. You need to make sure the person you're speaking to understands what value is in what you're asking for. What do they get? What's in it for them? Don't tell them about a rent-free period, because that's what's in it for you. Increasing the value of their property is what's in it for them, okay? So negotiate it that way. You can look at a deposit-free period. If we look at HMOs, landlords who ask for a deposit are looking for a deposit. It's a damage deposit. If anything goes wrong, if anything gets damaged, that deposit is activated to repair those damages. Now, you're a managing agent, okay? You're managing this property. If you give the landlord £1,000 deposit, and then the tenants that come in then pay you a deposit, those two deposits are actually doing exactly the same thing. So why would you pay the deposit? Explain to the landlord that what you can do is open a deposit protection scheme where the tenants will pay into that scheme and the landlord has access to it. That way you're not paying anything. Now, if that conversation goes well, you've now got rent free, you've now got deposit free. Now, the furniture is the next thing. You can actually purchase furniture on credit, okay? Companies like IKEA will allow you to get all the furniture that you need. It could be 4 or 5 grand's worth of furniture for the whole property. And you can just have it for free, so to speak, and you pay for it on a monthly basis. Now, if you manage to do that and start paying for it on a monthly basis, guess what? You're no longer the one who's paying it. So if IKEA says you're going to be paying £50 a month for all of this, and you've calculated that your profit is going to be 750, as we discussed, now your profit is just 700, but you haven't paid anything. So you've just taken on a whole property for free, and now each month where you're paying back for the furniture, it's the tenants that are paying it, not you. Okay, that's another way of looking at actually eradicating the upfront cost. Landlords pulling out of the agreement, very possible. So just make sure that you align your agreements to protect your finance. The contracts that you sign with them, make sure it has information that protects you. We have a break clause of about 6 months because we anticipate that all the money we put in comes back in 6 months. So if anyone breaches or anyone wants to come out of the contract within those 6 months, they're then responsible for remunerating us. If the landlord says they want to leave 3 months down the line, they will remunerate us for the amount of money that we've put in so far. So use those agreements to protect yourself, okay? No profits even at high occupancy. So accurate deal calculation to make the rental offers, okay? So at the points that you actually make the offers to the landlords or the offers to whoever it is that you're dealing with, make sure that you've done your due diligence to understand what the market rate is, to understand what exactly you're going to be making out of this deal before you even make the offer. And understanding all of that information then allows you to know what offer to make to the landlord. So that gives you the accurate deal calculation to make a rental offer. Okay, that allows you to make the profit. And if you don't do that correctly, you can have high occupancy and still no profits. Okay, take necessary measures to reduce the chances. Now, this is going back to the bad guest booking the property. Okay. Now, this is a very common thing for service accommodation. People worry about people coming to have parties, trashing the property, people coming to do drugs, and the other one that come to the property and misuse the property and all that stuff. Okay. Take necessary measures to reduce the chances. You see, I say reduce the chances, because if people want to come and do something wrong to your property, they can find a way. Just reduce the chances by doing things like taking IDs, having cameras at the property where you can verify who the person is, get them to sign terms and conditions, take deposits, and all extra things to make it a little bit more difficult for the person who's looking to misuse the property. But you can't eradicate the chances completely. Recently, we had a case where all these security measures were in place, all the signatures were done, and this was actually dressed up as a contractor who made the request. But when they got there, they blocked the camera with the tape so we couldn't see what was going on. And within a minute, they started emptying out the house. So they started stealing all the furniture. This is something that happened about 3-4 weeks ago. Okay, which was raised as a police case. You can't really sort of like account for everything, because if someone is looking to do something wrong, they can find a way to get it done. Okay, so in summary, what have we actually spoken about? Talked about what property strategies are there. We've spoken about the buy-to-let. We've spoken about the rent-to-rent. We've spoken about HMOs, service accommodation. I touched on lease option agreements. I touched on deal sourcing and also commercial conversions. What can you achieve with them? We've discerned every different strategy that we've spoken about, what it is and how you can actually make sure you make a profit from each of them. Where can you find them? We spoke about the online platforms. We spoke about the networking, the social media. We spoke about talking to agents. And then challenges with managing them, which is what we actually just touched on, and also what you can do. Now, this is down to what you can do now to make sure that those things don't happen. However, this also touches on, with the information that you've collected here, everything that you've learned in here, and you're looking to use property as a vehicle to take your life and your family's life to the next level, take that information now and take action. So people say knowledge is power. I don't believe that. I say knowledge is a potential of power. It only becomes power when you put it with implementation, when you put action on top of it. There's people who know all of these strategies, understand everything, but they're not doing anything about it. What's powerful about that, from my point of view? It's what's powerful about knowing about things if you're not actually going to utilize them, if you're not going to implement, if you're not going to take action. So knowledge is potential power. It becomes power when you implement, when you take action on top of that. So now is the time for you to take action. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go through bonus material before TJ actually tells me that I've gone over. So you are going to lose money. Okay, so this is all about mindset, guys. Just keep this in mind. You're going to lose money. You're going to get rejected. You're going to lose friends. It's going to be very challenging. You're going to feel very lonely at times. And the big one is a lot of fear is going to set in. Okay. Now, this is a change of language, which is something that I need you guys to kind of think about. If you understand that these are the types of challenges that are coming your way, keep this in mind when you actually look at it. Firstly, you are investing your money, okay? You're not going to lose money. Every single penny or every single small piece of financial investments that you have in, you are investing it. So whether the deal goes right or it goes wrong, it teaches you something. Understand what exactly you're learning from it, okay? I hear people here who actually go to property training courses and come back and say, well, that's a complete waste of time. I spent all of that money and I didn't learn anything, okay? Find the lesson in not learning something from that training company. Is it the training company? Is it you who wasn't really focused? What exactly is something to learn from that? If you learn something in every failure or anything that looks like a failure, it's no longer a loss because you've learned something. It's an investment. So think about it that way. You are investing your money to learn something. You're going to get rejected. Okay. I will either learn or I will learn. So I will either learn or I will earn. Either way, I won't lose. Okay. So that's how you want to look at it. It's either you learn or you earn. Either way, you're not losing anything. So you're going to lose friends. This is a major one. There's a lot of people who think the same friends that you've had since childhood have to be the same friends all the way until whenever. Now, that can be the case. However, sometimes that can be limiting because some of those friends will have a completely different focus to what you're looking to do. Okay, it is not your responsibility to drag all your friends wherever you're looking to go. It's difficult enough for you to change your focus. So I am outgrowing my current circle of friends and growing into a separate one. If the friends are important enough, they will actually get to you at some point. It's just not the right time. Don't worry too much if you're starting to lose some friends because of the new ventures you're going into. Okay. Don't worry about it. You will find more friends who are focused in what you're focusing on. It's going to be very challenging. That is very true. Now, everyone who's in the property game in whatever country can confirm this. It is not easy, people. It is a simple process, but it is not easy. Okay. So every skill worth acquiring comes with a challenge. If it doesn't come with a challenge, it's not worth it. If it doesn't come with a challenge, anyone is going to do it. There's nothing special about it. If it comes with a challenge, it's a skill worth acquiring. Face the challenge, embrace the challenge, take it on, learn what you need to learn, and move on. So you will feel lonely at times. So I've touched on the fact that you're outgrowing your current circle of friends. So you are transitioning into a circle that aligns with your goals. At the points that you feel like you're losing your friends or you're losing your current circle, you're moving to a different one. And in that period of transition, you may feel alone because you're being sort of alienated by the ones that you've known for a long time. And as you transition into a new circle, which is more aligned to your current goals, you may feel a bit lonely, but view it as a transition. It's not a permanent location. It's a transition. Okay. Feel it, move. A lot of fear will set in. That is so true. It is scary. It's a very scary concept, especially speaking from my experience, getting to a point where I wanted the funds that are coming from my business to cover my wage so that I can skip from my job and focus on the business. Coming out of my job, which is something I've known for my entire life, that you have to go to school, you have to go to college, you have to go to uni, get qualified, get a good job, stay in your job until you die. That's the concept that we learned. That's what we knew. Now, if you've got a very good job in a first world country and then you decide, do you know what? I'm going to leave my job. There's a lot of people that are going to be asking questions. Some are actually going to call you some strange names, which happened. And a lot of fear will set in because you start questioning yourself. Am I actually doing the right thing? These guys are talking some real sense here. This is a very good job that you've got, Muzzy. Why are you looking to change? What are you doing? And that fear will set in, and it can make you change your decision. It can make you change your focus. It can make you change your direction. But you have to always remember what resonates with you. Why are you looking to do it? Understand it. There's no point in staying in a position that will make someone else happy if you're not happy, okay? So a lot of fear will set in. The way I look at it is fear is an acronym for false evidence appearing real. When I did jump out of my job to come into my business, a lot of things that I feared did actually happen, but they don't happen as bad as you think about them. It's not as bad. A lot of times that we even fear something, it's not as bad as we think it is. So it's false evidence appearing real. And I would recommend for anyone who's feeling that fear, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway is a very good book by a lady called Susan Jeffers. It's a good book to read, and it talks about how to deal with fear and what fear actually is. Okay? So the main message that I want you guys to know on the bonus material is you are not alone. You're never alone. You never have been alone. You just need to reach out to the people that are going through exactly what you're going through. And this property game is not it's not an easy one to go through. It's a simple process, but it's not an easy one to go through. And whatever stage you're in at property, whatever challenges you're facing, someone else has already faced them. Reach out to those people and get some help. Okay, now that is the end of my presentation, guys. Thank you very much for those that are listening, and thank you very much. Hopefully you've learned something, and for anyone who's looking to reach out, these are the places that you can find me. And when it comes to technology, I'm going to need TJ to come back and help me out.
Boom, 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 boom. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well done. I think everyone else can testify that you've been on fire, man. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay,
thank you very much.
That's good stuff. So here it is, right? We had given you kind of like an hour, but as your name is, right, Muzinduna, and so here's the thing. I think a lot of people know me and things like that, and we're always talking about property. And I've been the uncle for a long time on here. But at this moment, Mozi, we have just graduated you from Muzinduna to Izinduna, right? You know, you understand what Izinduna is, isn't it?
Yep, I do indeed.
Good, good. For some of us who don't know what Izinduna is, it's either in a Zulu or Xhosa name, but it basically means the advisor or a great leader or an ambassador. And I honestly think that Mozi has lived up to his surname today. We can just create the easy so that we can say that he has been a great ambassador into telling us about property. He's been a great advisor to those that have been coming through and know nothing about property. But here's the thing I want to share with you guys. When I started learning, when Gena and I started learning, and potentially Rita as well, yes, the people that were teaching us were talking like this. This was the language that they were talking about. What we now understand about property, right? The language hadn't translated into South African. So we were kind of like trying to think, what do they mean when they mean solicitor? What do they mean when they mean buy to let? You know? And all of these are the terminologies that we had. And we had to translate that. And I think for a lot of people, that language left them, you know, from here to there. But we persevered, we figured it out, we created a business around it. And Muzi, dude, you just nailed it, man. You went over time, but you just nailed it. I forgive you. Awesome stuff.
I couldn't stop. I just couldn't stop.
Right, right. So I'm just gonna go through, right? For some people that have bought their tickets to be in the back room, we are going to go into the back room. Muzi, I think you can leave us and you can go to the back room. And the team is just gonna reach out to you to give you access into the back room. But thanks a lot for being with us, ladies and gentlemen. I want to close off, right? I want to close off. This is the thing. This is why I invited Muzi here. For you to see that property is the same throughout the world. That's number one. Number two, it's very similar. Number two, right? Think of it. If you had invested 10 years ago and you have invested in the UK, what the results could have been. Somewhere along the lines, Moses spoke about that, and the money almost, not almost, it doubled or tripled, right? Over in a 2-year plan, over in a 10-year plan. Like, isn't that a great opportunity, right? The third thing that I'm going to speak about is that, like, there's so many nuggets that Moses drops. I'm just going to end it there. For some of you who are seeing us in the back room, I apologize that we've gone 30 minutes over, but if you cannot make it, that's great. Remember, we are recording all of this. You can catch it tomorrow. But for some of you who do have questions right now, let's run to the back room and we will check out Muzi and the entire team that's there. See you in the back.